Good morning, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. This is Rich again, back for your first video blog of the day for November 6, 2014, Thursday morning around 7:04 in Billerica, Massachusetts. It's cloudy right now, and it's going to be raining later on in the day. We're going to peak out around 50 degrees or so. Heavy rain tonight, but November's known for a rainy month, and maybe some snowy mixed in towards the end of the month. And we have to deal with it right now because winter's coming. Some news to report. The Toronto Raptors beat the Boston Celtics by the score of 110-107. The Celtics have been playing very good this year, even though despite their 1-3 record, they're in all the games so far, and that's good. They're getting better, but I don't know if they're going to be winning too many games this year. And also, Chicago Bulls guard Derrick Rose tweaked his ankle, the injured ankle he had recently. That's not good because he is one of the most exciting players in the NBA, and I just hope Derrick Rose doesn't be injury prone his entire career because he's the Bulls franchise and he's probably one of the top 5 best players in the NBA. And the Miami Marlins are talking long-term contract with outfielder Giancarlo Stanton, and that would be good if the Marlins could tie up Stanton to a long-term contract. He's one of the best hitters in baseball right now. And that's about it on that. My next subject is my continuation series of the top 10 greatest everything and anything. I've reached the top 10 greatest NFL play-by-play announcers of all time. This is an impressive list. Some of the greatest announcers, sports announcers, have worked NFL games over the years, and here are the best of the best. Number 10 on the all-time list of greatest NFL announcers of all time, Charlie Jones. Charlie Jones called NFL games for 37 years. He started in the AFL. He called 5 years of the AFL on ABC, and then when he moved to NBC, he called NFL games for the network for 33 seasons. He did some playoff games. He was some years the number 2 announcer for the NFL on NBC. Very, very great announcer. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in the broadcasting wins. He got the Pete Rozelle Award. He comes in at number 10. Number 9 on the all-time list of greatest NFL play-by-play announcers of all time, Don Criqui. Don Criqui has called NFL games since 1967. He started off at CBS. He called the first year New Orleans Saints games for CBS, and then for 11 years he was with CBS, part of the NFL coverage. He moved to NBC in 1979. He actually was traded to NBC for Kirk Gowdy, and he called NFL games for 19 seasons for NBC, and then he moved back to CBS, and he's been calling games ever since for CBS. He's very underrated. He's never been the number 1 play-by-play announcer of the NFL on NBC or CBS, but he's called a few playoff games, and he's done the Super Bowl on the radio, and he won the 2003 Pete Rozelle Award for Broadcasting Excellence for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He comes in at number 9. Number 8 on the all-time list of greatest NFL play-by-play announcers of all time, Ray Scott. Ray Scott was known for calling the Green Bay Packers on CBS. He was also the number 1 play-by-play announcer for the NFL on CBS for a few years. He called many Super Bowls. Later on, he called several NFL teams for their radio broadcast, and he comes in at number 8. Number 7 on the all-time list of greatest NFL play-by-play announcers of all time, Joe Buck. Joe Buck's been with the NFL on Fox since its inception in 1994. He started off as a low-level announcer for regional games, and then he was on and off the NFL games for about maybe a few years because he was focusing on Major League Baseball. When Pat Summerall retired in 2002, Joe Buck became the number 1 play-by-play announcer for the NFL on Fox. He's called many NFC Championship games and many Super Bowls. He comes in at number 7. Number 6 on the all-time list of greatest NFL announcers of all time, Jim Nantz. Jim Nantz is the number 1 play-by-play announcer for the NFL on CBS. Before that, he hosted the NFL on CBS, and back in the late 80s, early 90s, when the CBS had the NFC coverage, Jim Nantz would do some regional games. The last year the NFL was on CBS in 1993. Before the 4-year hiatus, Jim Nantz became the number 2 play-by-play announcer behind Pat Summerall. He comes in at number 6. Number 5 on the all-time list of greatest NFL play-by-play announcers, Greg Gumbel. Greg Gumbel has been doing NFL games for close to 30 years. He started off in the late 80s calling regional games for CBS, and he hosted the NFL Today on CBS for 4 years and until from 1990 to 1993. Then he moved to NBC. He hosted the NFL pregame show on NBC for 4 years, and he returned to CBS. He was the number 1 play-by-play announcer for the NFL on CBS for about 6 years. He and Phil Simms, he called 2 Super Bowls, including Super Bowl 38, when the Patriots beat the Panthers. Then he moved back to hosting the NFL Today on CBS for 2 years. Now he's back doing play-by-play for the NFL on CBS. He's the number 3 announcer behind Jim Nantz and Iron Eagle, and he's pretty good, one of the best play-by-play announcers of all time. Number 4 on the all-time list of greatest NFL play-by-play announcers of all time, Al Michaels. Al Michaels is currently the voice of NFL Sunday Night Football for NBC. Al Michaels has been doing NFL games for close to 40 years. First, he started off as a regional announcer for NBC games back in the early 70s. In 1975, he moved to CBS to do regional games for the network. He left CBS in 1976 to join ABC. Interesting fact, Al Michaels was replaced doing NFL games on CBS by Bob Costas, and then in 1986, Al Michaels became the voice of Monday Night Football, the play-by-play voice of Monday Night Football on ABC. He did that for 20 years, and he moved to NBC when they got Sunday Night Football, and he's in at number 4. Number 3 on the all-time list of greatest NFL announcers of all time, Curt Gowdy. Curt Gowdy's called NFL games for close to 30 years. First, he did the AFL games on ABC, and then when they moved to NBC, became the number 1 play-by-play announcer for the AFL, and eventually the NFL. He called many Super Bowls, many AFC Championship games. In 1979, he got traded to CBS for Don Criqui, and he was like one of the top announcers for the NFL on CBS for a couple of years, and he kind of stopped doing NFL games. He briefly came back doing the Patriots games on the radio in 1987, and then he worked a couple of games back at NBC in 1988. He comes in at number 3. Number 2 on the all-time list of greatest NFL play-by-play announcers of all time, Dick Enberg. Dick Enberg started calling games back in the 60s. He was the LA Rams radio announcer, play-by-play. Then in 1975, he moved to NBC Sports. He first started as like a regional announcer, and by 1978, he replaced Curt Gowdy as the number 1 play-by-play announcer for the NFL on NBC. He did that for about 20 years until NFL rights were lost by NBC. He didn't call an NFL game in 1998, 1999, and 2000. He moved to CBS. He became CBS's number 2 play-by-play announcer for the NFL for many years. And his famous signature is, "Oh my!" He comes in at number 2. And the number 1 greatest NFL play-by-play announcer of all time, Pat Summerall. Pat Summerall called NFL games for close to 40 years. First, he was a color man on games on CBS. He was a color man for the New York Giants games and the Washington Redskins. And then he was like a color man for Ray Scott and Jack Buck. In 1974, he moved from color to play-by-play, because Pat Summerall was actually a play-by-play announcer for several sports on CBS, including the ABA, college basketball, the Masters, tennis, and he called the 1974 NBA Finals for CBS. And he moved to the play-by-play announcing position. He is partner for many years. His color man was Tom Brookshire, and they were a great team. In 1981, CBS split up Summerall and Brookshire, and replacing Brookshire was John Madden, and Summerall and Madden were the #1 announcing team of all time in any sport, and they coached several NFC championship games and several Super Bowls. Pat Summerall retired after the 2001 Super Bowl as the top play-by-play announcer. He did some regional games for Fox on and off until his death in 2013. And that's about it on that. This is an impressive list. Be back later, Facebook friends and YouTube followers, for 2 more video blogs. I'll tell you about the history of Prism New England, Sports Channel New England, Fox Sports Net New England, and Comcast Sports Net New England. That's all the same thing. And the third and final video blog of the night is going to be about where they should put a new Fenway Park, because even though everybody loves Fenway Park, it's 102 years old, and eventually it's going to have to be replaced by a modern stadium. I'm going to pick the locations where they should put it. There'll be no personality profile tonight, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. That's taking a rest. And the top 10 list of everything might take a rest this weekend. I don't do those every single day because it's like a baseball team player 162 games. Most of them don't play all 162 games, so they'll be having a day off here, there, everywhere. And November is going to be a November to remember on these Facebook videos and YouTube videos, and I'll be talking many more stuff. And definitely the prime time's coming sooner than later. Julie Broughton's going to get her video blog, a personality profile for Julie Broughton, who has a great smile and nice legs. Heidi Lee Pratt, who has a nice smile and the greatest legs in the world. Janelle Tobin, Crystal Pistol, Dee Patel, last week, no bus. Bruce Cronin, want to put a wager on that, Richie. Tony Ramos, Donald Beauregard, and Angelo. Play scratch tickets. He doesn't win anything significant. Good day, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. See you later on.